Hey guys, a very good afternoon to all of you. We're going to talk about the GDPI and WAT program, which is going to start in a few days because the CAT exam is over, your SNAP exam is going on. We have two more attempts left. There is an IFT exam coming across. So all the big exams slowly are taking place, and we have our ZAT also coming across on 8th of January. So probably within about 3 weeks time, almost all the major MBA entrance exams will be done. So the next thing that all of you will be thinking about is what next? How do you prepare for GDPI and WAT? So in this session, I'm going to take you through the GDPI and WAT topics, what exactly happens, what is expected, what you're supposed to do, and how to prepare for these. Let's go ahead and take a look at these three areas. Okay. So I'll call them as a Troika for the rite of passage into the top B schools. So it is not necessary that every B school employ all three of them, but yes, some B schools will employ 1, 2, 3 depending upon their wish, but they announce it way ahead. For example, if you look at any of the top MBAs like the IIMs, they take a interview and a WAT. If you look at a XLRI kind of a program, they look at a interview and GD as well as your WAT. In fact, for XLRI, they make you write the essay in the exam itself. Similarly, you have other type of colleges. In fact, some colleges like FMS they don't have a GD. They have something called as an extempore, which is slightly different. I will talk a little bit about it. But yeah, there are various forms. But these three happens to be the most important forms. GD not for the IIMs, but GD is important for a lot of non-IIM colleges. But they are still in the top MBA colleges. So let's take a look at what happens in these. What are these exactly? Why are these administered? What is the purpose of them? And what is expected? So if you know why these are administered, what is the reasoning behind it, you'll also be able to understand what are you expected to do in this. And then we'll be able to probably understand what is the best way to navigate through these. What are the pitfalls you should not get into? What are the do's and don'ts? So that's what we're going to look at the end, right? So let's move ahead and take a look at what are these. So these are kind of hurdles which you have to be surpassed, which you have to overcome for the second round. First round is the exam, right? So that's the first round. It's already done for whichever college you're looking at, or it's about to be done. But the second round is where these things come in. So these are the hurdles that you will have to pass, clear, and then probably expect a call from the final, not call, call is the interview call. You can expect a final admission, okay? Usually it is a combination of WAT plus PI or GD plus PI. Very rarely you find all three of them, as I said. The pandemic effect last 2 years, quite a few of the colleges have stopped taking GDs, but that is in 2020, almost nobody had a GD. It was only interview, online interview. 2021, quite a few of the colleges still ended up taking only interviews. Very, very few of them had GDs. 2022, in fact, students, again, 2020 you have to keep in mind, by the way, 2020 March is when we had a lockdown. So those institutes which did not have the interview started yet or the process started yet, they completely took only interviews. They scrapped everything else. Whereas the IIMs which finished before their GDs before March, well, they continued with it, or rather, there's nothing else to continue. It was already done. But 2021, everybody opted only for online. 2022, some colleges took online GDs, online interviews, some took offline. It was a mix. 2023, my expectation is almost everybody will revert into the original scheme of things where they'll ask students to come offline. So I'm expecting 2023, that is the coming year, the interviews to be offline, the GDs to be offline, the WAT to be, you'll be writing the WAT on a piece of paper. So I'm assuming this to be happening because there is not much about pandemic we are hearing in India. I hope you guys are following what's happening in our neighboring countries like China. The things are scaling up there. In fact, the pandemic is again coming back in that country, but we are relatively safe. So I don't think things will change. So be ready for a offline performance in these things, right? This year we frankly, this we don't have to wait and watch. I'm pretty certain it's going to be offline, right? So let's start with the first thing, which is a WAT. Now, WAT is written ability test. Now, what are they testing here? Okay, so written ability test is a test of 3 or 4 things. First, it's a test of your writing ability, of course. How can you write? Second, it is a test of your structured way of thinking. And third, it is also a test of your knowledge. These are the 3 things that will be tested in this particular thing called as WAT. Okay, so it usually has anywhere between 10 to 15% of the weightage in the second round. Interviews, of course, hog the maximum limelight, so they take up 35, 40, 45% of the weightage also in the second round. The WAT will take up somewhere around 10 to 15% depending upon the institute, and the other the remaining percentage is broken up into 10th and 12th and graduation, academic diversity, non-academic, gender diversity. All of this will make up the remaining part. So in the second round, the most important happens to be interview. Then you'll also have WAT and the other parts which you can't have or you don't have any control are your 10th score, 12th score, your graduation score, your academic diversity and or your gender diversity. These you cannot control right now because whatever is done is done. Moving on, we have, so what are you expect? How long should this be written? So typically I expect a minimum of 200 words, but that is very, very less. Ideally, I would say anywhere in the range of 400. 400 words is a good enough amount of content. You will be able to do justice to the topic that has been given to you. Okay. And what is the time given to you? It will be anywhere between 20 minutes to 30 minutes. The time that has been given to you will be 20 to 30 minutes. So let me explain to you how this happens. Usually, when you're looking at this WAT as a topic, you will go in the morning because you'll be asked to come in the morning or evening slot for the interview. So they will ask everybody to write the WAT, that is the written ability test. They'll give you a topic, I'll explain what happens there. But once this is done, then they'll ask you to wait in a waiting room. They will call one after the other for your interview. So usually WAT is administered before your interview because some institutes have this habit of looking at your WAT and asking you questions from the in the interview also. That happens. So that's the reason why this is usually done before the interview. Which means obviously it's done on the same day, in the same morning or in the afternoon slot of your interview, right? And the time given to this is around 20 to 30 minutes. So what happens here? Normally the topic for this, so there are, you'll be given a short statement from any of the 3 or 4 domains that you can think about. First is current affairs. What is happening today? There could be a small line with respect to some news which has come out, not exactly the news, but in that line, let us say war. If you've been following news, you know that Russia and Ukraine are having a drawn out, I don't know whether you can call it war anymore, but yeah, it started off as a war, now it's a skirmish, whatever you can call it. But yeah, the 2 countries are fighting it out, right? So with respect to that, there are many areas that this particular incident has affected. Oil prices, economy of different countries, not just Russia and Ukraine, the entire European economy. Talk about the inclusion of other countries into UN or NATO. Sorry, not UN, NATO. All of these have implications, or there are implications in all of these areas. I can give you any one of these areas, and I can ask you to write certain things about it. So it will not be a lengthy sentence given to you. It will be a short, sweet sentence. You are supposed to write your opinion based on the facts that you know. Okay. It could also be from social issues. Now, this doesn't have to be current issue. It could be a social issue which is rampant in a particular country. You can talk about boycott culture, or we have seen the Pathan video song has come out, and there's already cry for banning of the song. Right, wrong, keep it aside. I can make a WAT topic by saying that India is, the ban culture or the sensitivity of the audience has really increased. You can't take anything which is going slightly against your mindset or the way in which you think. So I can give you a sentence to that extent and ask you to write your opinion on it. So you can use any examples, you can form a structure and come up with an answer based on that. I can also give you a topic from abstract area. So it doesn't have to be something which is properly meaningful. I can just say, the color of the sky is blue. That's it. It's an abstract area. That's how abstract topics are. Or I can, one abstract topics used to be quite famous in some of the colleges like IIM Calcutta for GDs earlier. I remember IIM Calcutta giving a GD topic called blue, just blue. 2 years or 3 years later, it gave another topic called deep blue. Right, so they are famous for that, but again, very, very rare. You don't come across these abstract topics very often because not everybody is able to figure out what to talk about it. And the writing of the WAT, that what you're going to write there, will end up losing its purpose, because abstract, there's nothing, you can't judge too much about the knowledge part of it. So you get very rarely topics from abstract areas, but otherwise it's current affairs, social issues, and there's a fourth area, age-old idioms. So idioms, the phrases that you know. For example, let's take the very, very old phrase. A pen is more powerful than a sword, or a pen is mightier than a sword. I can give it to you as it is, or I can twist it and say, a sword nowadays is more powerful than a pen. Now, don't worry about what I want you to write, because I'm changing the sentence does not mean that I want you to justify this or justify the other one. It's just a sentence at the end of the day. Your job is to write based on how things are, what is the context, and build a narrative and give your opinion. That's how it doesn't matter what I expect of you with respect to which side you should take. You can take either of the sides, there's no problem in WAT. Okay, but the time given will be 20 to 30 minutes. So what do they expect? Of course, the first thing they expect is the content. Your content has to be rich. You need to know, you have to have a lot of knowledge about it. At least you should be able to write 500, 400 words. 400 words is good enough. 350 to 400 words is a nice length of a WAT essay, right? Of course, the second thing is write what, how. It's not randomly writing. You need to have a structured way of writing these essays. You start with introducing the topic. For example, if you take a pen is mightier than a sword, or a sword today is mightier than a pen, you can start by setting the context. What does it exactly mean? What is the logic or the idea behind the sentence? If you remember anything about the origin of it, or anybody who said that earlier, who coined it for the first time, we can mention that. You're basically starting, you're narrating from the beginning. It has to start with a proper beginning. You can't randomly start in between. Once that is done, then the second thing is you'll start giving examples to, or examples or facts which will showcase both sides of the narrative. You ideally should not stick to only one side when you're describing it. You are looking at the pros and cons. And finally, the conclusion, you can say that that's your opinion. The conclusion will be your opinion. You can talk about which side are you leaning to and why. Because guys, any topic you take in the world, there will always be positives, there will always be negatives. Usually you end up choosing on one side because you feel the positives are more than negatives, hence you're on the positive side, or the negatives are more than the positive, therefore you're on the negative side, whatever. But the conclusion should be a very nice way to to explain to the person who's reading why you are going on this line. So you have a structure starting with the meaning of the statement given to you and the origin of it, if you can, bringing in the context. Then you use your facts, examples, talk about the both sides of the coin, as they say, and then finally you talk about where do you lean towards. What is the reason why you're leaning towards? Write a paragraph on it, and that typically will add up to around 350 to 400 words. Okay. How do they, as I said, okay, how to deal with abstract WAT, AWT topics like just one word or one line. Firstly, AWT will never be abstract. AWT is different. We are not covering AWT here, but yes, WAT can be abstract. Now, in an abstract topic, what you need to understand is there is nothing called right abstract or wrong abstract. There's nothing right or wrong in abstract, as long as the idea that you're presenting matches the statement. For example, if I take the example of blue, that's it. I told you an example for IIM Calcutta. What do you write about it? So start talking about the color blue or the interpretation of blue. You need to be a little bit well read about it. So you can talk about different ways in which blue can be interpreted as. For example, why are you blue? What does it mean? It means you are gloomy, not really to the brightest of your in your brightest of the spirits. You can also talk about under the blue. Basically, you're talking about under the sky. I mean. An interpretation based on that. So there can be multiple ways in which you can interpret it. You can also talk about the color of the water is blue in color. I mean, typically water doesn't have color, but you see the oceans are blue in color. So blue is a color which also leads to life, because water leads to life. Some interpretation. It doesn't have to be exactly correct, but somewhere there should be a relation between this particular abstract word or this phrase given and the ideas you're trying to express, and multiple ideas can be brought in. There's no conclusion about it. In an abstract, there is nothing called conclusion. You can talk about the different ways in which this particular thing can be interpreted as. Okay, that's basically how it happens. Is that clear, Hardik? So the number of different ways in which you can think about the representation of that abstract word or topic given to you, that is that much more better your essay will turn out to be. Okay, so that's how it will be as far as abstract is concerned. And of course, the development of ideas, as I said, the logical flow will lead to development of ideas. The better the logical flow, the better the ideas are. Yes, Hardik, that's a good enough idea. Linking it to, it doesn't have to link, but if you can, great, nothing like it. But don't worry about linking and conclusion. In abstract, there's nothing much to conclude. The only conclusion is, yes, it has many interpretations at the end of the day, right? Because that's the whole purpose of an abstract topic. And the other point which they check is, how are your ideas expressed? See, guys, many of us have ideas, but the problem is expressing those ideas in a very succinct way. An introvert might have a lot of ideas, but he cannot be a good public speaker because he's always afraid. Similarly, in this particular case, if as a manager, you don't get to speak to all the people all the time. You will be sending a lot of emails, a lot of written communication. Nowadays, WhatsApp has been used quite a bit. When you want to communicate something, it has to be done correctly. So how good are you in expressing of your ideas in the written format? That's also what is being checked. As I said, it is okay to have an opinion, nothing wrong about it, but you have to substantiate it with proper flow of logic and correct statements. You can't generally say this is my opinion, right? So every opinion, you are entitled to have an opinion, but the forming of an opinion should be based on a solid logic. So present that logic why you are having this opinion, and that will be a good essay for you. Okay. Now, how do you prepare? Of course, because there are 4 areas that I spoke about, you should know current affairs. So you have to read newspapers and magazines. There's no choice, and not just for WAT. You'll be asked questions about general awareness in your interview too. So you will be required to read up on your general awareness, whether you like it or not. Okay, so start making it a habit to read at least 1.5 hours of newspaper every day, right? Now, not just the facts. Facts are good, important, but that's not just it. Think on points for and against the topic. As I said, don't just stick to one side of the topic. It's always good to put both the topics. Think of all the RCs that you have read. Many of the RCs, the author presents 2 sides of the view and then takes one side and goes strongly for or against it. But they will introduce a topic on both sides. Think about the RCs that you have read when you're preparing for CAT. You'll understand that better. Okay. And form an opinion. So and this is for writing essay, but when you're looking at current affairs, for you to form an opinion, or rather when you're forming an opinion, just for the fun of it, or just to make sure that you know how to counter an argument, or rather you know how to behave when you are countered in the interview, try to think of the flaws in your opinion, or what playing the devil's advocate. Basically, the idea is, if you say this is better, forcefully try to think why this is wrong, so that you will know what are the other person's views also who's not agreeing with you. Okay. Hardik, that's very less. I have seen that happening, but I don't see that happening too often. So interviewers asking us to explain WAT is very, very, very minimal. Probably 1 in 100 or even more. Percentage wise even less. 1 in 100 or 1 in 200 or 1000, but it happened, not that you have to worry about. Okay? And keep writing one topic per day. Right now, if you're starting, I would say keep writing 2 to 3 topics in a week. Once it is January, you'll have to ramp it up, write one topic per day. To help you understand some WAT topics, these are what happened last year. All decisions in a democracy should be taken through referendums. This is from IIM Lucknow. First, you should know what is the meaning of a referendum. Otherwise, you will not be able to answer this topic at all. Suggest ways to reduce the problems of teacher absenteeism in primary and middle schools from IIM Bangalore, a social related topic, right? Is immigration a boon or a bane? This is IT Bombay, SJ Mehta School of Management. It takes less time to do something right than to explain why it went wrong. IIM Code. So look at the topics, how they are. Cultural diversity impedes democratic governance. IIM Lucknow once again. Demonetization, that's it, one word, of IIM Bangalore. The name should be more important than money. This is not exactly abstract, but it's kind of an idiom kind of a thing. IIM Code. So you have variety of topics. You can just Google it up. You will get actual topics, lot of them, because there are so many interviews that have happened. Just start writing up on each one of them, or at least reading up on them. Okay? The next thing is personal interview. What happens in a personal interview? Let's take a look at this. It's typically a 20 to 30 minute affair. It will not be more than that. In fact, there are certain institutes which are known, like if I remember it correctly, I think it was IMT Ghaziabad, and I think MDI Gurgaon also last year. I'm not sure about Gurgaon, but definitely IMT Ghaziabad. They finish interviews in 7-8 minutes for everyone. All students, 7-minute interview, 8 minutes interview, 6 minutes interview. Students are scared. I don't even know, sir, what happened. I went there, I spoke for 3-4 minutes, then they asked me 1 or 2 questions, then they sent me home. Don't worry, if it is happening for everyone, nothing wrong, because you are one among the many people who have gone through that 7 minute. Don't read too much about it or too much into it. The whole, normally for an IIM or a institute like let's say an SPJN and things like that. SPJN is actually a group interview, it's not a one-on-one interview. That's a different ball game altogether. But if you're looking at symbiosis and all of these, they will go on for about 20 to 30 minutes. 20-25 minutes is the ideal time. 30 is actually a bit too much nowadays. As I said, some institutes do it in 7 to 10 minutes also. Don't worry too much about it. They have their own way of assessing student in 7 to 8 minutes. They look for particular traits, the 7-8 minutes, and if you're able to do that, that's good enough. Typically, it will be, can you speak well? Is your intro plays a big role there? Can you introduce yourself well? How structured is your thought process for introduction and all of that? Okay. Normally, there will be 2 to 3 panelists. If there are 3 panelists, usually it means 2 of them are professors and 1 of them could be an alumni. Normally 3 professors don't sit very often, but yeah, it is possible for that to happen, but it will be, in fact, I have not seen single panel, 1-person panel. I've always seen 2 or 3 people panel. And usually it is done after the WAT and GD, that's what I just mentioned. 40 to 60% of the weightage can be for your PI depending upon the institute. Okay. So what is tested in PI? It's not a test actually. It's more of knowing you and your thoughts. See, the test is already done. That is an entrance exam. I don't want to test you once again. Here, you can call it a test, but it's not about your aptitude anymore. It's more about you as a person, and are you going to be a good fit into my institute? My institute stands for certain things. Do you also show those characteristics? That's what I want to test in the interview. Okay. Are you a manager material or not? Definitely that has to be tested, because all institutes are trying to make managers. Apart from that, they will also see there are certain traits that certain institutes love. For example, if you look at IIFT, IIFT loves people who excel in some certain aspect of their life. It could be they are excelling in sports, it could be they are very good in one of their hobbies, it could be that they are a ferocious reader, whatever it is. One brilliant aspect if you have, your interview will be a piece of cake for you. That's something that they value. So everybody values certain things. If you fit, you will be a straight away yes for them. Okay. So what do they quiz you on? Some major areas to answer so that they can ask you are: first, introduction. Normally introduction is supposed to be for 60 to 90 seconds. Minimum 60 seconds, because guys, you will be 22, 23, 27, whatever age. if you don't have in that 20 plus years, you don't have enough content to speak for 60 seconds, then it's a very poor life you have led. Think about it that way. Can't you speak about your 20 years, 20 plus years of your life for 1.5 minutes? And make it interesting. See, whether your life has been interesting or not is a different issue. Can you project it interestingly? Because you are a manager. You want to be in a position where you can put things in a very rosy way to your boss at the end of the day. So, but jokes apart, you should be in a position to articulate things even if it is dry. So that's what they want to see in a student. So introduction for about 60 to 90 seconds. There is no right way or wrong way to introduce, as long as I can keep you engaged for 60 to 70 or 80 seconds. It should be a neat story about things that they would like to know about you. Please don't waste your time talking about the things they already know, like your college name, your school's percentage, your college percentage. What will I do with it? No point. Your entire introduction should be to tell them characteristics of yours which you think they will like. Bring them out in different ways. Okay? Then the other question they'll ask you is, why do you want to do an MBA? Future aspirations and related questions. So why is it that you're sitting in front of me and wanting to get into my college, wasting 2 years of your life and a ton of money? It's not cheap nowadays. Almost all the top 15, 16 MBA colleges charge you an upwards of 15, 16 lakhs. In fact, if you look at the top 3, IIM Ahmedabad, Bangalore, Calcutta, they charge you about 23, 24 lakhs. So that's the cost you're spending and 2 years of your life. So why are you going through all of this? The answer, while you and I know, is money. You can't say this as the answer in the interview. Now there has to be a matured answer where you are going to somehow connect these 2 years of struggle of yours to some achievement that you want to have, or to some career that you want to see yourself doing, or a part of, or a lifestyle that you like to see yourself leading sometime in the future. So connect this 2 years or these 2 years of your life and convince them how this will help you achieve what you want to do in your life. What is your goal? And the goal doesn't have to be 60 years of retirement. It could be a 10-year goal. It could be a 15-year, 20-year goal. It could be a 40-year goal too. Whatever it is, first define it and then find the path to it. Okay? And of course, if you are having work experience, work-related knowledge, there are 3 parts to it. One is your profile, your job. The second is your company and your industry. So firstly, what is your role? What is your profile? What is your job? How does it help the company? Everything related to what you do. Second is all information about your particular company. Especially if it has been in news for whatever reason, you should know everything about it. And third, about the industry in which you are in. So if you are in IT industry, what has happened to the IT industry over the last few months? How is it right now? Are there any particular big news items which have come out in this particular industry? Anything related to your particular company which has come out in the last few months or last few weeks? Your organizational structure, the heads of your company, the big people in your company, all of this information you need to know. And college related knowledge depends on how much of work experience you have. If you typically have 3 years or above, they can still ask you, but not much. But if you have less than 3 years, you can be expected to ask. In fact, if you're a fresher, definitely it's a guaranteed. So what should you prepare as far as your college related knowledge is concerned? Prepare at least. So if you have less than or equal to 2 years of experience, I would say prepare 3 papers of your core subject. And if you have more than 2 years, then probably you can go up to 2 papers. Now, what are these papers? Core subjects of yours. For example, I'm a mechanical engineer, I'm a mechie. So what are my core subjects? There are many core subjects, but I would ideally prepare thermodynamics for sure, because everybody's favorite is thermodynamics. As a mechanical engineer, I'm expected to know that. The second topic, if you ask me, typically what do you think of a mechanical engineer? The first thing that comes to your mind, apart from thermodynamics, would be probably engines, IC engines, internal combustion engines, the Carnot cycle, the 2-stroke engine, 4-stroke engine, all of those things, right? So these things I should prepare. And ideally, I would say when you're preparing 3 papers, I would say 2 prepare from the papers that you love, 1 from the topics that you don't like. But again, core areas. Don't get into the electives area saying that, sir, I'm a mechanical engineer, but I like finance. Do you want to do that in an MBA interview sitting in front of a finance professor by chance? You don't want to do that. Similarly, don't bring in operations, marketing and all unless you are very, very sure about it. Please don't, try those kind of stunts. Ideally, stick to your core. They will not get irritated. They will be happy with you. Prepare well and go for this because this can be asked for a lot of you guys. Okay. Then the other questions are strengths and weaknesses. They can ask you about what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses. Typical HR questions. Strengths, you should know 3 or 4 strengths of yours with examples of when this strength has been displayed. When you're talking about weakness, a weakness is something simply put that you don't want to have. Lot of movies, lot of online forums talk about weaknesses will be disguised, strengths can be disguised as a weakness and say all that is crap. Don't bother with all of that. Simply put, a weakness is something that is affecting you negatively. You don't want that as a part of your life if given a choice. That is a weakness, but for weakness, 3 things you have to prepare. First, 1 or 2 weaknesses, what are they? Second, where have these weaknesses stopped you from doing something in your life? When have these weaknesses stopped you from doing something in your life? And third, the third point is not there for a strength, but it is required for a weakness. The third point is, what is your plan to deal with the weakness? What are you doing about it? As a manager, you cannot say that I have a problem, but I'm not looking at solving the problem. If you know there's a problem, there should be a plan for it. There should be a work in progress for it. What is that? They would like to know that. Okay, these are the 3 points for weaknesses and the 2 points for your strengths. Similarly, they can ask a lot of other HR questions. What are your hobbies? When you're talking about hobbies, usually they might not end up asking your hobbies on their own, but if they ask, there is a purpose for it. The purpose is, look, you don't like thermodynamics, that's okay, I understand, because you might not have chosen the thermodynamics in your life on your own. But hobbies, nobody forced you to choose, correct? If you say your hobby is playing chess and you don't even know the rules of chess properly, then it speaks very poorly about you simply because it is a hobby you picked. Something nobody forced, you pick of your own interest, that also you are very lackadaisical in nature, that also you're not really focusing on, that also you didn't do enough research, then you are not a serious candidate at all for them. If something is a hobby for you, in their opinion, you should be very, very passionate about it. At least then I will believe that, look, if you like something, you have the ability to learn a lot about it. That I will believe. But if you don't show that to me, I will say, you like something, that also you're so, easygoing on that, then you are not my candidate at all. Let me put it that way. Okay, so that's the reason why hobbies become very important if they ask. And please don't mention reading 2 books in a year is a hobby. A hobby is something that you are really passionate about. You really do something in your life on a regular basis and you can have discussion about it, and when you're discussing about it, you should feel happy about it. That is called as a hobby. Okay? Of course, general affairs can be asked, there's nothing about it. Sometimes puzzles can also be asked depending upon how the interview goes. For example, if you're saying that your hobby is to play strategy games, analytical games, if I were to give an interview, I'll always talk about it because I play a lot of e-games, e-sports. I also play a lot of physical sports. So if somebody understands this, they can give me a puzzle based on some strategy, right? So you have to be aware about how this could lead to a question in the interview. Okay? Shivansh says, sir, I got 91% in 10th. This took a toll on me and I ended up scoring 72 in 12th. Should I mention it in the interview? Shivansh, remember, in the interview, unless they point out, don't bring anything negative. Your story should all be upwards or, happy, or it should always be something that you have achieved. Shivansh, in your story, you are saying that it took a toll on you and you ended up with 72. What are you trying to accomplish by that? I can understand that if something bad happened and despite that you achieved great, then that's a good story. But something bad happened because of which you could not perform, it's not a story you would like to talk about. So please don't bring that in the interview. You can bring any story provided that is showing you in the positive light, that is showing that you are a fighter. Otherwise, it is not to be brought in the interview, simply put. Okay? And yes, there could be some questions on ethics too. And any question on ethics, simple rule, irrespective of the scenario, you know ethically what is correct, stick to that answer. They can give you any scenario which will prompt you to say, yeah, this time I'll be unethical. You should not do that. As far as the IIM or non-IIM MBA interviews are concerned, your answer should always be ethical first, ethical and moral first, then legal. Okay, that is the order. No, Abhay, sympathy will not work because you're talking about 10th and 12th. What sympathy are you talking about? It's 3-4 years away, older. No more sympathy. Okay. Things to be kept in mind when you're dealing with an interview. First, speak slow. If you notice, I'm trying to speak as slow as possible so that my words can be easily understood by you. And the second advantage of speaking slow is, while I'm speaking slow, I can formulate my next sentence so that my speech looks coherent. I'm not lost in between. If you speak very fast, two things will happen. So if you notice, what I'm trying to do is I'm going to speak very fast. When I speak very fast, you don't understand fast enough. At the same time, I don't have words forming in my mind fast enough. So I will speak and then suddenly I'm like end of the rope. I don't have anything to speak. I'll wait for 5 seconds and then I'll speak the next sentence. That's very bad. So speak slowly, speak in a proper rhythm so that your next sentence is always ready by the time your current sentence is over. Okay, that's one thing about speaking slow. It's also okay to say I don't know for questions that you really don't know. If you don't know answers to any questions, there are two things you can do. If you have some vague idea, you can ask them, sir, I'm not really sure, can I take a guess? They'll say yes or no. If yes, take a guess. If no, that's okay, that's passed. If you really have no idea, you can say, sir, politely, sir, I'm sorry, but I don't recollect the answer, I don't know the answer, or I don't know the topic. It's nothing wrong. Lot of students do that and still get in. Trust me when I say this. Saying I don't know in an interview is not bad, provided you say it sometimes, not every time, right? If you're not sure, ask the permission to guess the answer. As I said, don't randomly say any answer because they know the answers. In a puzzle or a scenario-based question, so they can, as I said, the puzzles can be asked to you or a scenario can be given to you. Here, the final answer is not important. What is important in such a scenario is the process. What is the process? What is the thinking? What is the logic you're applying to come to the answer? That is more important here in such kind of questions. Okay? And your words and actions have to be consistent. So when you're talking about your life scenarios and you talk about I'm this kind of a person, invariably they will try to see whether your actions in life are matching the kind of person that you're saying you are. And it is very difficult for you at that spot to realize how they're leading the questions. If you are faking the answers, you will get caught somewhere or the other. Ideally, you should stay true to yourself. That is the best way to navigate in an interview. Okay? And as I said, be honest to the extent possible. I'm not saying be totally honest. Be honest to as much as possible, but there are certain things which you don't have to talk, don't talk. That's fine. Okay? And what are you not supposed to do? Please don't try to impress them with great, cool looking words, because you will get caught in some of the worst case possible scenarios if you try to do this. Typically, students use words which they don't really understand properly, or they also use in the introduction they talk about their project work which has very cool name, or a internship they have done which they really didn't do, but the name of the internship is really good. So you end up blabbering about it and then they'll start asking you questions. So the thumb rule you need to follow is anything you mention in the interview, ask yourself, can I talk for 3-4 minutes on it? And if they ask me questions, am I happy about it? If you can't handle the questions, please don't bring it into the interview. Okay? Don't bluff. As I said, it's very easy to catch a bluff irrespective of how smart you think you are. Remember, they have seen so many years of students. Every year, a student with 100 percentile goes through them. Every year, a student with a 99 percentile goes through them. Obviously, right? So you're not the first person that they are seeing. So don't imagine that you can bluff your way and get out. Yes, certain cases you can, but it's difficult for you to understand which cases you can and which cases you can't. So please refrain from bluffing. Okay? Don't ever think this person might not know about it, so I will let me bluff. Don't. You don't know who might be sitting in front of you, what is their specialization and what is their hobby. So don't ever bluff in an interview unless you are very sure that this is something which is not known to anybody. It is my personal thing. then that's fine. Little bit bluff you can. But things which can be known, even however obscure it is, don't bluff. Okay? And as I said, don't talk about stuff that you are not fully aware of, just to impress them. Headings will not impress them. What will impress them is asking questions on that topic and if you can answer them. That is what impresses them, not the heading. Okay? As I said, remember, you think you are smart, but they would have seen thousands like you every year. Every year they do this. So please mellow down, bring down that overconfidence into confidence. Confidence is good. Overconfidence is when you think, okay, they will not know. Confidence is saying that, okay, let me try with my best possible approach. If it is wrong, it is wrong. But you're not lying there. Okay? As I said, do not lie or don't lie on issues that can easily be verified, especially when you know when you can get away with it. There are certain issues which they can't verify. There are certain issues which are easily verifiable. So please talk. For example, when I'm introducing myself, and if I want to talk about the leadership positions that I've held, I can show certificates for, let's say, my office leadership position, my college leadership position. I can make a story by also putting my school leadership positions. Now, school captain or school something like that might not have a certification. So that's difficult to verify. But I can put it into my story because half is true, half is false. I can say that from childhood I've been showing this kind of a trait. Saying that, look, this is the certificate for the last 5 years of my life, but I was like this before that also. Then they can't check before that how were you. So you should know where you can get away, where you can't get away. Right? As I said, avoid mentioning issues you are uncomfortable dealing with within the introduction or anywhere in the interview process. Keep this in mind. A lot of people fall into these traps. Anything you're talking, first thing that should ring in your mind is, okay, do I want to get into this area? Yes or no? If you are not comfortable in that area, don't even get into that discussion. The next and the last thing is group discussion. Now, group discussions today have become very less relevant, but still some colleges are doing it. So typically 8 to 10 people, 10 is a bit too much, but usually 8 to 9 people will be there in a group. You will be given 30 to 40 minutes as a group to discuss about one topic. 2 to 3 minutes will be given to you once the topic has been read out, or they'll write the topic on a board if there is a board, or they'll read the topic. You have to listen very carefully to the topic. And you will be given 2 to 3 minutes to form your points. And once that time is over, they will say you can discuss. That's it. Once they say you can discuss, they do not exist anymore. It is you and your group that matters. You will only talk to each other in the group. You will not address the panelist at all during the entire process. Okay? In a GD, usually 2 to 3 panelists there'll be 2 to 3 panelists, and the same people will also be taking your interview because they will see your performance in the GD and they'll look at your performance in the interview too. And it is done usually before PI. It's either WAT or GD. Okay. And the weightage, as I said, it could be anywhere between 15 to 20% depending upon the college. Not many IIMs are putting this anymore. As I said, most of the top colleges have done away with this. Almost none had it last year because of the pandemic, as I said. But this year you can start expecting some GDs to be happening. So what is tested here? First, once again, the content is tested because it is between WAT and GD, not both. It's either this or that. So content is a must for both. Ability to communicate. So WAT is written communication. Here it is verbal communication. How polite are you as well as firm are you when you're talking about your ideas? So that's what will be tested. Conveying your ideas, how lucid and clear are your thoughts, how easily are you able to express your ideas to them. So that's what will be tested. And how do you behave in a group? When somebody is against you, how do you behave? When somebody is in your line, how do you behave? When somebody is fighting with you, how do you behave? All of these things will come out in a GD. And that is what they will observe. Okay? Of course, they will also look at your leadership skills. When there is a group, no matter how small it is, there'll be somebody required to lead the group in the right direction. So can you do that is something that they will also check, which is the leadership skill. And as I said, handling disagreements. Now, how do you deal with people who don't agree with you? That's of course going to be checked as a part of your GD. And especially very rarely this happens. Sometimes you can be proven wrong properly and everybody agrees that you're wrong and you also know you're wrong. How stubborn are you? Are you stubborn in the first place? If you're wrong, it's nothing. I mean, ideally you should not be wrong in a GD, but if you're wrong and you're proven to be wrong, accept it. At least that shows that you're humble. Stubbornly saying no, no, no is going to be very stupid. When everybody is proving that you're wrong, it doesn't matter when everybody is saying their opinion, but if they're proving factually you're wrong, you have to shut up and accept it. And then move on. So that will give you better points than not accepting it. Okay? And the other thing is ability to make yourself heard when people are not really conducive, their people are not really friendly. So that is where, again, something kind of a leadership skill. How do you make yourself be heard to people who are trying to fight for the same thing? Why should people accept you? Is there something that you're doing which will make people listen to you? These are the things that they will observe in a group discussion. Okay? Some do's and don'ts. Do not address the panelists. As I said, once the GD starts, the panel does not exist. It's only the group. Do not fixate on one person in the group. You're supposed to address the entire group. So even if I'm countering you, I will start with you, but I'll start looking at everybody else. Left, right, center, everybody. So the whole idea is, whether I'm agreeing with you or I'm disagreeing with you, I should not just keep looking at one person. I should look at everybody else. It's a group. I have to include everybody in my discussion. So that's the reason why you're supposed to focus on everybody else also. Okay? Have eye contact with everyone in the group. As I said, you are addressing the gathering, right? Don't ever take it into an argument. If you realize it is getting into an argument, you should be the sensible person to slowly make it out of the argument. You will not get extra marks for continuing the argument. Even if you win the argument, it looks very, very bad. So if you realize that something is getting into an argument with another person, the person who very nicely navigates and get out of the argument, or diverts it from an argumentative stage to okay, we politely disagree, move on kind of a stage, is the person who will be given maximum marks. Because disagreements do happen in the real work-life culture also. But doing that kind of a disagreement in front of everybody when it's a disagreement between two people is not the right way. You have a disagreement, talk with individuals later on. But you don't create a scene in front of everybody. And if you're doing that, that is exactly what they don't want. So the person who has that maturity to understand this, it's not that you're losing face. It's not that you're afraid of the other person. It's not that you are scared that he will be right and you will be wrong. No, that's nothing like that. The whole idea is, can you slowly understand that this is unnecessarily wasting time? Therefore, I will navigate out of it. You are showing maturity there. Okay? And you don't have to pick a side. As I said, in a group discussion and a topic is being given, you don't have to pick a side. In a discussion, your job could be as good as giving pointers on both sides. Now, people might say, hey, you just gave me a positive point, now you're saying negative about it. You can very politely say, yes, but because we are here to discuss about a topic. So I am trying to give as many viewpoints as possible so that we can come as a group to a better conclusion. So you don't have to stick only to one side, because the moment you stick to one side, you definitely, as I said, every topic has two sides. Positive sides on both, both positive and negative. So you can't just say I will be for it or I'll be against it, because the moment you say I'll be for it, then there'll be points which will be against it that you'll not be able to talk, and which means you'll be having lesser points to talk. So always in a GD, keep yourself in the center, talk about both sides. You don't have to give your opinion. Okay? Try to speak 10 to 12 times in a 40-minute interview. That's a thumb rule. That will basically end, you will end up with 6 to 7 actual speaking points. Remember, this is not like your normal place with friends where you try to speak and you get a chance to speak. Everybody is trying to speak. So when you try 12 times, 13 times, you actually end up getting 7 to 8 times to speak. Because every time you speak, somebody else will also be speaking. So sometimes you'll have to mellow down. Sometimes you'll try to stop the other person from speaking. So all this fight keeps happening. So you cannot be successful 100% of the time. So if you try some 10, 12, 13 times, you'll end up speaking about 6 to 7 times. That's the idea. And as I said, don't repeat your points. It's a waste of time. You get a chance, very, very rarely, you can't repeat your points again and again. So have 5, 6 different type of points. Okay? So there are two approaches that you can use in your GD. One is called as a spelt approach. Spelt is for social. So any topic which is being given to you, think of it from these viewpoints: social angle, political angle, economical angle, then the legal angle and the technological angle. So if you look at any topic, 1 point from the social side, 1 point on the political side, 1 point on the economical side, 1 point on legal, 1 point on technology, you will look as if suddenly, wow, this guy knows so much. But basically what you're doing is thinking of the same topic in 5 different viewpoints. That's all. You will come across as a very, very smart guy, or a girl for that matter. right? So remember this spelt approach. It's very simple. It is basically to help you think in different perspective. These are the 5 perspectives: social angle, political, economic, legal, and technology. It might not be applicable for all 5 might not be applicable for any topic, but yeah, if you remember this acronym, you can at least look at 3-4 viewpoints and come up with points for that, right? And the other approach is called as the keyword approach. Keyword approach, in fact, is something which will look at the sentence given to you and try to start questioning the keywords. For example, if I say, education for profit should be banned. So let's apply the spelt approach. First of all, the social impact if this is done. Political impact, can it be done in the first place? Legal impact, does the constitution allow something to be banned? Why should I not have profit in the education? Economical, what is the impact of it from the economical point of view? And then technology, how can you ban this? What technology can you use to ban this? And today's scenario, how is it important to have profit or not profit? Similarly, if you're looking at keyword approach, education, what type of education? Ask questions about education. That's the keyword here. One of the keywords. Is it primary education, higher education, post-graduation, graduation? Which education are you talking about? How can you ban everything for profit? Something. So if I'm going to teach you, some particular skill, you can't say I should not teach it for money. I mean, there are different types of education which may or may not be banned or could even be discussed. So first start talking about it. Profit. What is a profit first of all? Start defining the meaning of a profit. Should be banned. So if you're talking about banning, where? Which country? Can it be done? Who should ban it? Under whose jurisdiction does it fall? All these questions. So what you're trying to do is every part of the sentence you're trying to apply the whys, whose, where's, how's, all these you're going to apply to every keyword there and try to come up with points. That is keyword approach. So these 2 approaches will give you a lot of talking points in the GD. Okay. Well, that brings me to the end of the session. I hope you've got an idea about how GDPI and WAT are conducted. I'll be taking a lot more sessions. So if you like the session, please give me a like right now. Subscribe onto the channel and click on the notification button, because we're going to come back to you with a lot of such PI and WAT and GD preparation material content for you. Hopefully, I'll be seeing you in my next one. Thank you and all the best in your preparation.